G'day guys, I'm very proud to announce Justin King, a good friend, who's going to be speaking on ASP.NET MVC. He's going to build a shopping cart in Visual Studio 2010 using MVC, and then he'll talk through the pros and cons of why you'd even want to use it over the conventional ASP.NET web forms. So with that, I welcome Justin King.
That's probably the best thing. I kind of haven't blogged in a while. I just feel that there's so many people blogging with so much great material that I'm just going to sort of add noise to this thing, and just I prefer to really get sort of real time what's current now, sort of in the news.
Where did you buy that flannel shirt?
I don't know. Okay, so the talk tonight is effectively it's geared on ASP.NET MVC 2 and 3. I'm going to use ASP.NET 3 Beta, which just came out. Not to say that you should use it in your production thing. I just chose to do this more as a kind of a learning experience myself, and also because I like the new Razor syntax for the view engine that was coming out, and I thought I can sort of build a session on that. But 95% of this content topic is geared towards ASP.NET MVC 2. And it's essentially like a fundamentals of ASP.NET MVC. So is anyone here currently developing ASP.NET MVC web app? Okay. So the four of you will probably get the least out of this particular session, because I'm trying to build it from, let's start with an empty project and build a shopping website. Okay, so I wanted to get people to understand who maybe are ASP.NET developers, Silverlight developers, and what does ASP.NET MVC offer you? Why is it another thing to choose? Why would I even want to switch to it? My suggestion is don't switch just for the sake of it. I'm currently just started a project on this only because it was a greenfield project. I had the flexibility. I said, hey, I can use ASP.NET MVC instead of ASP.NET. You're probably going to be most likely more productive in ASP.NET 2, 3.5, etc. because you've been writing apps in it for many, many years. You've learned all the nuances, you've learned all the things, you've got a lot of libraries written. When I'm talking libraries, I'm talking about like back-end code that you can reuse and stuff like this. I'm talking about maybe custom controls you've purchased that you just will have to go and purchase new ones or try and find new ones. You could put weeks into a project to actually try and work out what you just had to start with to go to a new thing. So this is not a sell you on, move to ASP.NET MVC project. This is show you what MVC has to offer, a couple of reasons why you want to choose it, and all the goodness that you get from a kind of highly active framework. Okay, so when you start up a new project, you'll notice here you got your standard web projects, MVC 2 project. Now MVC 2 was released with Visual Studio 2010. Okay, so whoever's on Visual Studio 2010, put your hand up. I bet just over half the room's gone to 2010, which is great. And that had a dependency on the .NET 3.5 framework. Okay, ASP.NET MVC 3, this beta just came out. There was a preview before that, but I'd expect probably around February, March next year based on their roadmap. This will go to sort of, RTM where they say, yes, we're going to possibly do a service pack of Visual Studio and slip it in that, or you can go live with your product apps. The big difference being is MVC 3 has a dependency on .NET 4. So you have to use the .NET 4 library for this. That's one big caveat for people when you're hosting. If you host your own servers, you can kind of do it yourself, but sometimes you've got to go find, well, my host doesn't provide that. It's been out for a while, but they might not offer that, or you might have to migrate to another server. Once again, throw another week or two onto your project. These are all sort of pros and cons of why you would sort of migrate an existing project, or you would just start sort of a fresh project, a skunkworks project. Okay, so I've got my project name here. I'm just going to choose MVC 3 web app, just called a Sydney thing. You get basically a project template. These are quite familiar now with most of the projects. You get sort of Silverlight with business apps. The standard MVC 2 has sort of the richer app with all the sort of the login authentication stuff, or a plain vanilla empty project. We're going to start with an empty project. One thing you'll see here now is you have a thing called a view engine. Now, obviously, I'm going to explain about what MVC is to say, well, what's a view engine? Because that's one of the kind of first things you go, oh, it's using the Razor view engine. You're like, what's a view engine to start with? Effectively, what it is it's the HTML kind of layer of your website. It takes the ASPX, the code, parses it, and outputs a result. Now, the view engine takes a look at that syntax and how it maps that to the end result. Now, think of it in the ASP.NET page, the little brackets, percent, or colon in the MVC2 where they sort of recommend that. That is your kind of your markup, your scripting syntax within your HTML ASPX page that gets parsed. Now with Razor Engine, it uses a different sort of syntax altogether. And there's many view engines out there. One really popular one I looked at before was Spark Engine, which is quite sort of popular, very well maintained. So you can actually add those into here as yourself. By default, because it's beta, it's not quite fully functional. So I'll explain a few little problems with it. But if I chose the ASPX, if I chose the Internet application, you'll see I can create a unit test project to go with it. And that's one of the big things with MVC is what an advantage of it is that it allows you to unit test and sort of a bit more sort of testing of your code without being too closely reliant on the browser or the sort of the generated output. And you can test your controllers. So with MVC, it stands for Model View Controller. There are three core things. A model is essentially where your data lives. It could be just sort of your POCO DTO classes with the connection to the backend database. It doesn't have to be backend database for your web service. All it really is it's a model of your data. And most likely you'll see it just in regards to a class with lots of sort of properties, getters and setters. Property values, then you might call it linked SQL, linked entities, your choice, you might call it a business layer that goes and does all the work for you. But it comes in from some external source into your model. Then you have your controller and your view. Your view is effectively your UI, what is rendered on the screen, what your output is. Now, that view takes information from the controller, which the controller takes in the actions and goes, I'm going to spit you out to this view. Now, it can determine it based on the action you've chosen. It can determine it based on other criteria, such as you might have a view for an iPhone. And if your website, you have different views for different browsers if you so desire. And they all come off the same controller. So the controller is really kind of like the disperser. It goes to the model, grabs the data, and says, pass that down to the view. So they've got this separation of concerns. That's kind of the main reason for it is that you're separating your logic. By forcing it to be separate in that way, it makes it a bit easier to say, you know what, I can test the controller, which can go connect to the model and get the data, and that could potentially, I can swap in into unit test time, a mocking framework, which means I'm only testing against my code instead of hitting a database and making database changes, which could be really slow every time you unit test. You're just sort of doing it just to test the logic, to make sure you haven't done anything stupid like a calculation or populating a list and what is rendered out to the screen. Okay, so choose the Razor Engine, empty project, and away we go. So one thing you'll see here is the first thing you get here is your solution up the top there. I've forgotten what the sort of the Windows keyboard is for Zoom. Okay, so up here on the screen we've got content. For the website, we'll create an images folder under there that at the moment it's just got a plain vanilla site CSS file ready to go for you. Then you have your controllers, models, and your views. Nothing in controllers, nothing in models. Currently in the views, just broken down with a shared view. We'll talk further on as we go along there. And there's a web config there and a web config there. Now this is one thing you start to learn. There's different areas within MVC that you can have units of code. So you might have like the admin side of your website under your views that has better security on it. And it can be controlled with a totally different web config. So it makes it a little bit easier to make sure you don't potentially actually update your web config and blow open a big hole on your main site. And also just hiding a little bit of extra information. There's also scripts in here. So by default, you'll see it's already added the Microsoft Ajax libraries and all the jQuery goodness that gets added to most ASP.NET for websites now. Okay, wait 2 secs. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just add a base controller. So, what's the okay, so if we go and add a new controller, we have a nice sort of wizard to go us through here, and we're just going to call this a home controller. If I add a home controller, and if I just do that now and just hit F5 and just run the project, you'll find that it starts up and it throws an error. And you go, oh, why did it throw an error? Well, the controller existed and it knew that it was there, but what it did is it looked through here and went, I can't find an index page, I can't find ASPX, a user control, I can't find this CS HTML or VB HTML. That's the Razor view engine extension, so it's a different file naming convention, just so that the parser knows how to do that. But what it's really saying is, you know, you need to have a view. Now, what we can do is, by default, is we can just return anything. So this action result is the result from the controller going back to the UI. We can actually just return a string. We can just do anything here. Just coding standing up, always fun. And I can just say home controller and hit F5 now. So now I've taken the view out of the equation. I'm not actually passing anything from the controller back to the view. I'm just telling it, here's your output. So you could actually generate pure HTML or whatever you want and say, take this and do this with it. So you can dictate it. So that's why I'm saying with the controller, it disperses to the view. Now, in that situation, by default, when it had the action result return view, it's by default trying to return to a default view, and it was showing you all of the potential items it was looking for. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add, for our shopping thing, we're going to actually add a store controller. So it's just our shopping controller, and once again we get another store there. Okay. So I had all my snippets up here. That was like pages of it, and for some reason when I closed Visual Studio down this afternoon, it disappeared them all. But that's okay. So if we do it, we did exactly here before. Return store index. We can create multiple ones of these actions. So we can actually call one string browsing our store. Return from store browse. And we'll do one more here. We'll call this one details. Return. And we'll swap these out for actual implementation of code shortly. Okay, but what we get here is if we start this up now, so what we've got here is we'll have our, because I swapped the home controller back. But if I change this here to store, it's now looking for the store controller. So even though in the project itself, you see the controllers has store and home, it looks for that first part before the word controller. So they have to be called controller. So it takes the first part and says, I found a store there. But if I actually go through here and say store browse, it's returned from the store browse action. It's in the store controller, but it's using the browse action. And same thing with details, exactly the same thing. Did I call it details? Oh no, private. Believe me, they will return that. Okay, so just made it public. So now what we want to do is we'll say, well, once if we want to deal with parameters, query strings, how do we deal with those inside our thing here? So if we've got our browser store, we want to browse for a particular item within the store or a particular category. So if we just go public string browse here, and we say, look, string, and we might call this platform. We're going to make a game store. Studio trying to be helpful. Okay, and if I just say, you know, so we're just going to use one of these sort of helpers, HTML and code, just to stop any sort of JavaScript injection. Because you've got to remember, whatever's taken in can go directly straight back to the browser if you don't sort of handle it. And we say we're coming back from store browse, and the platform equals and we just return message. Okay, so we can do that. I'll just refactor that a little bit. Use string format, just be a little bit, you know, better. Build that up. Now, when I run that, no compile errors. I run it, comes up the first thing, couldn't find that first thing. If I go store, found the index. But if I go to that browse, bang, has an error. Ooh, that's a bit interesting. Why to have that particular error? It's saying it's ambiguous between the two browse and browse system string, which the first time you come across it, you go, oh, that's a bit interesting. I can have overloaded constructors and, you know, methods. It's a different signature, but you can only have one action per controller, exactly that name. So we actually have to remove this one. There are values you can actually tell, well, the parameter is optional, and then you might provide a default value. So if they don't provide you a parameter, it might be like page ID 1, page ID 2. If you don't provide page ID, it goes to the first page. Okay, so once again, we just get up here, we just go to store, browse, and nothing there. But if we go platform equals Xbox 360, because we're at Microsoft, you can immediately see it's rendered out to the screen, all looking good so far. So we're handling our query string. But we've seen this new thing with MVC, the URI was starting to look really nice for SEO purposes, and then we get this big parameter at the top of that. Well, ideally, I'd like it to be Xbox 360, you know, or ideally store platform Xbox 360. But I've already coded that up with my controller. Well, what we can do is, this was introduced as part of MVC, but they also, you can now use this in ASP.NET. I'm not sure what version it was, it's 3.5 upwards. You can use in your Global SX page, you have what they call routing. So we can actually add a custom route that looks at the browse method. Effectively, these go top to bottom, so whatever route it hits first, it spits back. So you've got to put them in the order that you want them, because otherwise it might sort of think. I've told it to, you know, look at all controllers there. Oh, sorry, all route names. And I said, you know what, return it in this format, platform, and if there's a platform query string, change that and make that the value. I'm going to action this only on the store controller, because that's the only one that really makes sense, and on the action browse. And you go, okay, so all I've done was just change that, nothing new there, but I can go here and go store, browse, that still works, but I can also go, actually that did that not stop, and give me 2 secs. Add file store browse. So that will actually, URI will still map to the exact same action and the same query string. It'll also, whenever you do an action result linked to that particular value, it will spit back the appropriate, correct new URL. But the old URLs will still work if you happen to have them there. Okay. What we'll do now is we'll just go through and we'll just update this details thing here, and we'll just, you know, return the ID, the details for a particular, in the essence of time, we're just going to sort of just do this really quickly. Okay. Got, what's that? No, you don't need to cast that. It generally will do it. But now we can go here, store details /5. And what you see is it's taken that parameter and immediately just puts it ID equals 5. So it's starting to pick up how you're actually interpreting those query strings. Okay, so what we want to do is to start to design our models here, we're going to actually add a new folder in here, add a folder, and we're just going to call this view models. Okay, just so we can sort of hold. Okay, there. First thing I'll do here under the shared, so shared gets shared across all the different views. So you might have like a equivalent of a custom control and ASCX file, call them partial views. We can add here, we can add a new item, and you'll see here there's different types of things. So you have down here your standard master page in ASPX. You also have a page layout with Razor, and you also have master pages and nested pages, which are standard site.master files. Well, which one to use? So this is where you're getting into sort of got to learn a little bit about the sort of what you're actually doing with what version of the MVC. In this situation, we're actually creating a layout page for Razor, and slightly different naming. So if I was actually to choose an MVC 3 master page, it's called view master page.master, kind of like site.master. This is one of the big changes they've made. When I add this file here, effectively it's different kind of syntax. If I was to add, I'll just add the other one just so you see for an example, and just add a standard ASPX master page. You'll see how it has the content placeholders that you're very familiar with ASP.NET, and different sort of size there. Has the the header up here, inheriting from what the code behind class is, etc. Whereas this up here, and you'll notice here that there's no colours in it. It doesn't look sort of kind of pretty. In the beta, and that's why I say it's not really kind of, I don't think it's beta quality as such, they had to make a decision to get it out, and two things were lost in this. One was IntelliSense, which is a big thing. So when we're clicking this view.title, normally you would be able to push dot and it would actually tell you what properties are behind it. You don't get that. The second is syntax highlighting. But somebody came along here and under Extension Manager wrote an extension that you can search for online. I've already got it here. I've just disabled it. It's called Razor Syntax Highlighter. Somebody's just written a parser that just for this as an add-in. Restart the IDE. This takes a quick second to load up. And once we get going, you'll notice that the code now has a bit of syntax code. It's not perfect, but at least it identifies what is scripted code and what is strings, etc. So you see now you've got your kind of, it looks a little bit better. The big difference you have here now is with the Razor syntax is the @ symbol. So you see under the old master page, if you had any scripting, you had to have kind of the %@, and you also had to close it off. Well, with the new Razor engine, we don't have to close that off. It just kind of picks it, and you can actually have them kind of in loops, etc. And it'll actually just put braces around it, and it'll say, well, that logical group sits through, and we'll see that as we go through. Rather than the content place, I just said render body. So we can put sort of extra stuff into this page. We can go into the master page layout, and we can actually just effectively put in, I've got a style sheet that I just swiped from somewhere, from my content folder. So CS. Sorry if I was typing, but after I lost all my code snippets, I was a bit upset. CSS, okay, and no, that's / okay. So I now have a reference to my style sheet in there, and makes it look a little bit sort of neater. I can also go through here, and I'm just going to put in a few extra little things just to make up just a nicer sort of looking page. Just put a header and So you notice there was no autocomplete as well, like when you do a H1 it will automatically put the closing brackets in there. That's some of the things by using this beta you sort of lose out. You've also got, there's no design tab there. You can't even actually do this in design, so it's kind of old school. And we'll just call this, this is like our tagline. I've already got a logo sort of in there, where gamers, just put a bit of a tagline in there, and I'll just put a menu over there for our particular controllers. Class equals ref. So that's just saying that's our home equals saying go home. And we'll just put our main store page in there. Might put some stuff in there later, but I'm not sure how much time we have today. And we'll close that and just call this store. Okay, and just close off our unordered list. Okay, and one of the big things I usually use a thing like Control KD to format document, and you'll see down here key combination is not currently available. So a lot of these things just have gone out the window in this sort of beta. Just zoom that up for you to make it a bit easier for you to read. Okay, so now we go there. We've added a style sheet. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a style sheet from my where's my style sheet? Style sheet there. Where are we? Demo 2. Put that on there, copy and replace the style sheet. I've just added a database there at the moment. That's going to come from elsewhere. Images, I've just got some logos for stuff. See how far we get with this. We might sort of, I'll put it up online just as a thing there. There is a great tutorial which does kind of a very similar thing with a music store. A lot of this kind of code kind of came from demos from that. But I decided to do a game store because I had to rewrite it all for the Razor engine anyway. Okay, so now we can go back to our home controller. And on the home page, we returned our view again. But what we want to do is we need to add a view to that. Well, one of the good things with ASP.NET with the templating is I can actually just right-click on that and go Add View. And because I right-clicked on the index, it automatically said, well, my view name is going to be called index, so they're going to be corresponding to each other. And I can select my master page. I've chosen to use the Razor engine here. I can go here and I can see my master page is there. I can add that. And what I get here is I get under the views, home, so home for the home controllers, index page. A couple of different things up here is with the old version you would have still had that kind of like the page inherits, etc. There's a new keyword in the Razor syntax just called @model_dynamic, which is effectively saying whatever model you choose to throw at me, I'll just try to infer its type. So it's kind of very smart in that regards, rather than having to just specify what the code behind is there. The view title, so this title is what's going to be the title of the page. We might call this the home page. And you'll see that it's choosing the layout of that. And, home page for store. Okay, so effectively we can just run that now. And before it was throwing up that error, because it couldn't find a view to match, now it's got a, that's that stupid hourglass thing there. But now it's just got the logo I chose there, that was the tagline I put there, the home and store. If I click on store, it goes to the store controller. Nothing, there's no view attached to that as yet, it's just returning the string. But we've got a home page that's up and running. Okay, but what we want to do is we want to try and sort of start to pass some information back from the model through the controller to the view. So what we do now is we're going to go through and add a class to our view model. And we're going to add a store index view model. So this is the view model that goes along with our store view. Now, store index view model. Just grab that, delete. I did have some that I managed to save. And all we've got is effectively counting the number of platforms. So, Xbox, PlayStation 3, etc. And just a list of strings that just contains a list of all the platforms that we have. Okay, just using the sort of standard, auto implemented properties, as opposed to the where are you? No, I'm not going to like it. No, that's all right. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we'll go back to our home controller, and we've got an action result. So what we want to do is we're just going to create, rather than database just yet, we'll do the database a bit later. Whoops, that's a bit evil. Okay, var create our platforms, and we're just going to create a list of strings, and it's called Xbox 360, PS3, Nintendo DS, just do Wii, so just a couple in there. Okay, but what we want to do is we want to have our, that's why I didn't like it. No, why are you having issues with that? Oh. Okay, so, no, why is they having issues with that? Oh, I'll tell you, no. I'll tell you why. It's outside my method and it's going, what the hell are you doing? Okay, so now what we do is we have our view model and we can say it's a new store index view model. And we'll just go and use that view model. And we can say number of platforms equals our platforms.count, how many we put in there, and our platforms we support equals the platforms. So we'll swap this out later for a database. Oops, that doesn't exist there, that goes there, and that goes on the outside. Okay, so now what we can do is we can return our view with a view model. So we can now pass that view model of data, where it came from. Nothing here, we've created it here, but we could populate that from a database, anything like that, and just pass that back to the view. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to add a different view for this particular page. So we add view, but now what we do is we can base the view on a strongly typed view. So we can actually see our strongly typed value. So where this becomes important is in the UI, in your view, you're getting strongly typed properties. So you're getting compile timed errors if something doesn't exist, and also it's helping you identify what's actually there. Okay, so this is in the store, and actually, I'll tell you what I've just done wrong. And that was meant to be in the store index. Okay, because that's a store view model. Once again, add view. Wasn't on the actual. There was a. Why is that not working? not doing that. What's going on there?
See another view.
Oh, okay. Action result. Sorry. Okay. So now we can go through and add view, which I was expecting. Create a strong type view from that particular view, and got our master page, and away we go. So what you see here now is at the top, instead of having that dynamic keyword, it's actually saying, well, I'm using that view model. That's what is a representation of the data I'm expecting to come back to me. Okay, and we can call this store index. And on here, we can actually say, this is browsing list of platforms that we offer. Okay, and what we can do is we can just go through here and saying select from model dot. Now normally when you go dot in MVC2, you'll get a model dot, and it'll actually say number of platforms. I don't get that at the moment. Platforms there, and okay. And also what we can do is we can actually do the same thing here and just saying put a list, and we can say for each string platform name in model dot platforms. What is it? I didn't like that. And we put platform name, close lists, and close up that. I'm just trying to work out here where I need to. No, that's going to be there. Let's just try that for a second. Okay, so now we've gone to the store controller. You can see that it's saying you can select from 4 platforms and list the 4 platforms that we've added through the view model and pass back through it. Okay, how do we get rid of this stupid thing? No, it's better. Okay. So really what we're seeing here is there's a little bit less, ignore this squiggle, it's just the IntelliSense being a little bit crazy, but that's a lot cleaner looking HTML markup to be working with when you're sort of trying to lay out your pages and make sure everything sort of suits in there. But we also want to maybe have a look at the browse section, and we'll add a class here, and we might call this sort of the store browse view model. So that's actually browsing individual code in there, and just grab my, it's not picking up the models. No. What's different between that? Is it? No. No. What's going on there? Oh, because I haven't actually, sorry, I haven't created any models. So I need to just create a model for what a definition of a platform is. And name, so just a platform is just the name of a platform. Just tidy it up a little bit. And I'll add another model here. And we might call this game. It's just our game class. And a game class effectively has, I'll go away. That's better. Game has a title. And a game has a list of, or has a platform associated with it. Okay. That's alright. I'm just being crazy silly today. Just trying to rush through this. Okay, so now if we go back to here, we should be able to list our models and we're all good to go. So now we've got a view model there. Okay, so where this becomes important, that's to say, it might look a little bit sort of confusing why it's sort of separating everything out, but we're trying to sort of break up and loosely couple everything together. So going forward, if you need to swap in and out, if you decide that you want to go use link to SQL over link to entities, you want to go and use Hibernate, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of swap that in and test it, even have both implemented at the same time with a switch, and just use your sort of dependency injector to say, at runtime, use this one. So on a dev environment, you might just say, go use Hibernate while you're kind of solving all the issues. Once it's ready, you can push that out to your live site. Other than that, you say, well, it's not in dev mode, go use a standard tried link to SQL. Okay, so now if we go back to our store controller, down here we have our browse platform we had before. But what we want to do is we actually want to take in our platform model. So what we just platform. Why is it being selected? New control dot. Use those models. New platform, and we want to say our name of our platform equals the platform we're passing in. Okay, and with that we want to say, okay, we've got a few, let's make a few games. Game equals new list of game. And we can just say new game title equals game 1 title, new game title equals game 2. Okay, so we've now got that swapped in, and now we can sort of, that's just our dummy code, so that's just pretending we're going to a database rather than binding that just up yet. We'll just do this to start with while we're testing, while we're building our sort of controllers, build our view model for that and say, well, it's a new store browse view model. And the platform equals our platform model. And our games equals our games. Oops. Alright, so now we've got that there, and in fact we can get rid of all this and we can just return our view model like we did before. No, that's up there. Action result. Don't do that again. Compile, everything works good. Away we go. So now we can go store. We've got our index. We can browse, and nothing happens because we don't have a view that goes with that. So once again, we come down here, better build a view. created strongly. It's automatically picked it up, but it's the wrong one. We want the browse one. Okay, we want to choose our thing. We've got that there. Got our browse model. And browsing platform. And we can basically put in here our model dot and then basically game dot we do platform. Sorry, platform dot name. And we go straight through again and do the for each game in model dot games list our game dot title. Okay, run that now. If we have the problem here, store, browse, and we see game 1 and game 2. Okay, we haven't really actually passed any particular thing. If we put in a platform of Xbox 360, didn't pick up the title. What's going on there? Browsing platform dot name. Let's look at our store browse view. Platform 12.name should be picking that up. Did we actually set it? Store controller. Didn't pass it. We did pass in the platform. Platform naming is that. And we set the platform to that. Stop. Just start up again. I'll just pass through the query string just to see maybe my routing's not right there. Okay, yeah, so I obviously haven't put the mapping on that particular.
Your routing was platform slash, not browse slash.
Ah, that's probably what it was, yeah. So you're saying I was going
Store slash
platform slash Xbox, because I did change it from standard. But it wasn't even store, I actually went back to that there. So, yep, sorry. Always going to return the same 2 games for no matter what you're doing. But now we're going to sort of start to get a little bit trickier on those. Now we can do the same thing here with the store controller. We can say, well, let's pass back a var game equals new game equals Halo Reach. Turn view and game. Alright, and we can go here too now to go store details and nothing there because once again got to add the view. But at least you kind of sort of know what's sort of going on there. View, and this one here, well, we're not binding it to a view model because it's actually we're returning an individual item. But we can bind that directly to our model of game. And we can say here we're looking at details for game model dot title. And there's Halo Reach up top there. Okay, so that's just showing you parsing them back. So you've got to get those sort of fundamentals under your belt when you're sort of switching to MVC, just to understand how they all sort of relate to each other before you start getting into a little bit more trickier stuff with sort of linking. But what we want to do is, well, when we're looking at the store browse, we want to be able to click on game 1 and game 2 and go directly to the details. How do we do that? Okay, so in that situation we go to our store browse, and in this situation here we can go, I want to add a HTML action link. Now these are called MVC helpers. They're kind of like classes. You can create your own ones to take in something and do something with it. This one here is creating a link that will automatically post the information to a controller. So once we do that, we can say I want to take that through to, am I in the right class and start with? Store index view, nope, that's on the wrong one. I'll just take that and put that there. I want to look at the now see how I had the at there before? I don't need to put that there because I've already got there. I can actually say browse. So the browse is the action it's going to call on, and I don't need to specify the controller because it's within the same controller. It's saying, well, just browse within the same controller, and we can say platform equals platform name, and that there, close that, and there we go. Alright, so if I go to store index, now I've got my automatically there, click on Xbox 360, automatically converts to the platform Xbox 360, go back, Nintendo DS, platform Nintendo DS, browsing platform Nintendo DS. So you've got that notion there. You don't have to worry about sort of doing postbacks, etc. You're just passing information between controllers, and the controller's going, well, I've got that information now. Go back to that view. Okay. So what we want to do now is let's go and now change this and then wire up to a database. So if I just write here, in this situation, I'm just going to use a SQL Express database. So if I just add a ASP.NET folder, just app data, show everything there. I'll just go to my, here I've created a game store database, app data, put that in there, and give that a quick little refresh, include it in my project. Okay. All this really is just a game store database. You'll see here I've got just a structure. Effectively has an order detail, orders, games, carts, publisher, platform. If we got an earlier start, we probably would have gone down to the shopping cart kind of level. I intend to fully sort of wire this up, and anyone who wants it just kind of email me, and I'll gladly send you through the code and also the resources that I use to build this from. There's 2 really good books that I've read, and there's who went to ASP.NET web camps when they had that? Yeah, they started off when they were doing the web camps. They had a music store, which was kind of like a really sort of early edition of this, and now they've kind of they've been continually doing releases on that. So you can actually take that music store, which is like full fledged in what I'm trying to do, but it has the same sort of core principles, the very simple things with the store controllers. Instead of using sort of music. Yeah. But what we'll do is we're just going to use this database, and I'm going to wire this up and add under my models. So very important, you can normally sort of separate these elsewhere, but due to later extending and validating the models, I want to actually have the data access under the model. So everything lives on the model where it's saying I'm going here to get my data. I'm going to create a game store EDMX file, and I'm going to generate from database. Now, because I've already got that app data file in this project, it was smart enough to work out, oh, you've already got one there. Let's just create a connection, call it game store entities, away we go. What do you want to do? It's retrieving the information from the database. I'm just going to bring in all those tables, which I showed you before, games, publishers, etc. and click on finish. And now it adds a few extra DLLs, but you can see here it's got my schema there. It's also got this sys diagrams, which is a SQL Server thing. I generally just delete that because it's just for the diagramming. Okay, so now I have that information there. I can go through there. Okay, so I want to go to my store controller again, and under the index. So here where we're loading this up, I'm going to get rid of all of this. Okay, and I'm just going to say up the top here, I'm going to use this from my sort of game store entities, store and db equals new. Not always the best way to do it. You can do it sort of, do it once and do it externally, but this kind of suits our needs. Whereas I can actually say, well, all my, I want to grab all the platforms like we did before. Platforms equals, and we go from platform in store db dot platforms. So that's I have a table next platforms. Select platform dot name. Give that a quick build. Missing partial declaration. What's going on here? Oh, okay. So what's happening here is, because remember how I built these dummy just kind of class DTOs effectively, because I didn't have a database, I needed something to store that data in before. Well, I don't need those anymore. I can actually delete the game, and I can delete that platform. Okay, and I can do a build. And because this here is, I can't sort of do count there, I've got to just change this a little bit. Number of platforms, .count. It's now, it's actually a link to SQL property. So there's a few little minor changes here, and I also need to return this as a list. That's just learning that you're now returning from link to SQL. But if I go to here and I just go to store now, you can see I've got a few extra little categories. I've got PC in there now, which I didn't have PC before. So that's coming fully from the database. The other stuff is still static, but we're replacing that slowly. But we've effectively just swapped in a database call really quick and easy after we've built up our logic, built up all our structure, and said, okay, now we want to do something with that. Now you can start with a database base after, if you know what's going on. You can also start with things like dependency injection, which says, okay, when I start up my project, go use a mocking framework. In development mode, you might not want to connect to the database every single time while you're just sort of testing your logic, and then at the last minute you change one line of config and say, go use SQL database. Or while you're still building the SQL database code, somebody else could be building that. Everyone else could still be developing pages and layouts and all the controls, etc., without waiting for the database to be ready and all the calls, etc., to be created. Because not every single developer does every single part of the website. So it makes it easier that you can continually testing, building, and moving forward without having to wait on some other developer. Okay. Okay. So now we've got there. If we go to here, if we look under the sort of the browser platform, we can swap this one out here now. We can actually effectively say platform equals store db dot, and what we do is here we'll basically get platforms dot single, get the first one. We use these lovely little things called lambda expressions. P dot is a title or name? Name. What we got here? Oh, that's sorry, I was wrong. Still browse view more. Maybe on the wrong one. Browse. Yep, no, just 2 seconds. Brain's catching up quickly. Or slowly if you think about this time of night. platform model. Platforms don't include. Okay, so yeah, I want to also include the games. Single after it. It's not liking me. Why is it not liking me? I'll just do that for the moment to see what happens. And where we go. Okay, it's just saying it didn't like me, but it really did. Okay, so we can lose all this. We don't need the dummy code, so we'll effectively bring all the platforms back. We've got there. Now we've got the games, but effectively what we need to do is we need to get the from the platform model that we just created. We want to get the actual games dot to list. No, that doesn't go there. Alright, so effectively now we can go up here and we can go store, browse, slash, and we can say Xbox 360. And obviously didn't like that platform. Browse, store, platform. Yeah, but I don't think it was Xbox. I didn't think it liked Xbox. It's probably case sensitive. I'll just do PS3. Okay. Xbox 360. Okay, yeah. So effectively now I'm passing that. It's going and saying, get me all the games from the system that are under the category of Xbox 360, based on the platform, and then filtering down through a simple link statement. Okay. And then we can go down to the next level, which is we can update the details here and swap this out, saying var game equals sort of b dot games dot, this is where the singles for g game id equals id. TeleSense has just been a bit of a hissy fit. And what we want to do is we want to go over here onto our so we'll update this view here. So now when we click on the game title, we want to take it to the actual individual details for that particular title. And we can just effectively put that in here. We can have our HTML action link that we had before. And we can pass in the game title. This time we want to look at the details action. And we're going to pass in the parameter of equals and game dot game ID. It's a bit of a killer when you don't have IntelliSense. Close it off. Alright, so go browse. Okay, do that. Only throws that error actually, I think. At browse platform PS3, and we click on FIFA Soccer. It takes us to the details of ID number 3, FIFA Soccer. Now we can choose to have the ID in the query string, or we can actually choose to have a friendly, product code for that particular game. Because sometimes you don't really want to always have the full, game title in the actual URL. You may want it because SEO picks that up a little bit better. But most games have spaces, it might make a URL look a little bit uglier, depending on your sort of thoughts there. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to say, well, we've got data, we want to maybe work with that data. We want to effectively edit that data. So we're going to create a store manager controller. So this is for the admins of the website. Okay. At the moment we're just going to have index, and actually I'll just delete that and do it again. You'll notice here it's got a little tick box saying add action methods for create, update, delete and details. So you can now get to automatically create these stubs for you. Also creates extra ones for HTTP posts. Very important to sort of know about these. You can have somebody hit a controller and say, well, actually, I can have two creates, one where they go to the create page, but when they hit submit, it posts back, but it goes to a different action. So you don't have to do this, is it post back, do this, etc. With a controller, you say, well, this is a post, do this controller action. By default, it's using the get. Okay, so to do logic. Okay, so what we do is we'll customize the index page. Okay, so we'll go up here, top again. We can just put in our games. Oh, well, that actually that is going to. Yeah, why did not do that? Game. Store DB equals new. Alright, so under the index, what we're going to do is here we're going to say var games equals games dot. So we're going to say don't include. We want to bring back all the games, and we also need to bring back information about them. So we need to bring back their platform, and we also need to know their publisher, which also exists in the database. And we want to return that to a list. It's not normally it's adding those extra brackets. Alright, and return games. Alright, so now one of the beauty things we can do is we can actually go through and say, well, let's build our view like we did before, but one thing you notice here is it's built it off the game model, but that game model is not that one that we created before, which was just a dummy holder. This is actually the linked to entities domain model object. We can also say we want to create a list control template. So this is the templating part of MVC, which says, you know what, I can do a lot of the dynamic creation of all the view for you, because you're telling me you want a details view, a list view, an entity view, etc. And when we hit add, it'll go through and it reflects on all those properties and says, okay, well, what you have here is you have an action link to create a new one. So it's putting a hyperlink saying create a new product. Also, it's bringing back things like game ID, platform ID, etc. Now we don't need all of those because obviously we don't want the users to edit the game ID. That's just a database identity field. So we can take these out of here. We can actually remove them from value. We want the title first before the platform. It's just picked it up how it's come from the database, and we just move that up here, and away we go. Okay, and it's obviously got a few extra values in there. And if I just run that, and if I go to the store manager controller, immediately get this beautifully formatted table that's got, you know, your edit, details, delete. I click on edit, well, obviously that view doesn't exist yet. these are all things we can keep continuing on until 4 in the morning if you really want. I don't care. But that's the idea, is that we can immediately go through. But you'll see how it's immediately automatically saying that's my controller, details, and the ID. So this one here, edit, store manager, edit, ID 3. So it's automatically bound all those values up for you. You don't have to go hunting through, work out what's the ID, what do I need to do. I've got my values. Obviously this platform ID and publisher ID aren't kind of the best thing in the world to have. So we need to just tidy those up a little bit. But that's just pretty simple. We can effectively just go here and put .game. What was it? No, item dot platform dot name. Okay, so the item component of it there is effectively the model. So it's basically saying item in the model. You don't have to tell what model it is. It's inferred up top here saying, well, the model is, I'm enumerating over the game model you're passing me. We go back to our view before, store manager, and now we have what platforms they are, what publisher they are, Bungie, Electronic Arts, etc. So it's kind of, it feels a bit more natural. Obviously I'm missing the IntelliSense, which would tell you what those values are, but I find it's a lot more productive to sort of build pages in this way, and a lot cleaner. When you're looking at a page, it's a lot easier to sort of update the code. This has generated tables for us, but we can just use pure div tags, etc. if you want to really tidy it up a lot more and not use tables. Don't want to do that. Right. What we want to do is we also want to implement the edit side of things. So we just quickly go over here. So I might just do this last little bit here, edit, and then we'll take a vote on how long you want to keep going. We want to go to the pub, we want to go for a walk. What we have here is in our get, so we've got to get, edit post, edit get. So in our edit get, we're going to go through here and say, look, our game that we're going to return equals games dot single g dot game ID equals the ID we pass in, and return me the view of that game. Okay. Now we need to create the edit view, so effectively we can just right click and go like we did before, just get into this, but this time we want to use the edit view. Okay, away we go again, immediately see, and you see how it's always creating the views under different folders, so you can see what views are immediately with each other. It's not making it hard for you, so you see what the home view is, the home controller, the store controller, store manager. So for those developers who are a little bit lazy and next minute you got 50 ASPX pages in the one folder and you're like, oh, I've got to update that page, where is it? Oh, I've got to find it, I've got to search the solution, etc. When they get quite large. Whereas here now, if you say the index page on the store controller is broken, store, index, edit page. Okay, so what we have here, now it has the extra information about it saying, it's beginning a form, so it's effectively just the same as the ASPF form. Has validation on it, immediately says all this value, all this editor for labels and all that. It's like, oh, well, that's all rubbish, I don't really like all that. That's just a little bit too much. I can just take that and I can just effectively say here, what do I want to do? I can effectively just say html.editor for model. Replaced all that generated stuff for me and say do it, editor for model. The reason being is you want to start getting into did one not exist? Sorry, I think when I was playing with the data. Yep, game ID 1 didn't exist. I deleted and added data when I was testing. So immediately we've got our fields, we've got an edit field, immediately got a save, etc. Platform ID, publisher ID, well that's obviously you need to replace those with drop downs of what available platforms you can have. But if I change to Halo Reach 1, hit save, takes me back here, well, it still says Halo Reach. Why? Because that goes back to the notion we said before. Well, that was an edit HTTP post. We've done nothing except just return it back. There's one thing you notice here, no view state. View state's evil. I've hated view state with a passion for my life. But this takes care of that. You don't have to view state. That being said, you now need to create the objects log and pass them around between the controllers and the views. Because once it's passed, that's it. It's stateless. It's gone back to true stateless. Okay, so now we've got our edit form. But we want to effectively say, well, the reason we do that model 4 is, well, we might have that, on the edit, create a new one. Well, they're the same fields. Why would I want to generate that view code twice? Well, we can create what we call templates. So what I can do here now is I can actually add under here, under the shared folder, we can add a new folder called editor templates. And under here I can add a new view, and I can call this view my game view, but I'll tick this little box here called parcel view. In standard MVC 2 you'll see it actually will say ASCX, so it kind of makes it quite, it's a user control. View content, well at the moment we want to use the edit template to generate that. And away we go. So now we've got kind of like we had that code that we had before, but now it's in a nice place before. And that editor for template, when you say editor for template, it goes and looks for a template based under the same name. So it says, well, actually, I'm using the editor for the game template. So we've got all that value in there. One thing it did differently between MVC 2 and this is it actually put these action links within the actual template itself and the validation. You kind of leave them there, but I got screwed up when I was trying to get it right, and I would have 2 save buttons and it just wasn't sort of working there. If we go back here, I'll show you. It was under browse, no index, no details. Which one was I bringing on? Where's the browse for? Where's the browse for template? Oh no, it's Store Manager. Oh, it's on there. So it's HTML editor. So you see here, this using begin form validation summary here, div. I'd already created that there, and now it created it. The first time I created the view, it created it there. I created a partial view, and it created it down there again. I've got to remember, where's it going to be easy to remove it from next time? Because every time I generate one of these views, the template's just going to put it on the view that I've generated, no matter whether it's a partial or whatever. It didn't do that in MVC2 that I noticed. Possibly just a bit of a change or work in progress. Okay, just do this last little bit and then we can sort of get out of here. Alright, so we'll create a view model here just to hold this, including project. And the reason we're creating a view model here is so we can pass these around, because you want to tell it to pass these view models around, kind of like DTOs. New class. And we want to call the Store Manager View Model. And Store Manager View Model. Got all that information in there. Okay, and just now pop them between. Okay, so now we need to update our edit page. Up the top here, you'll see it's doing the game, but really what we need to do is we need to change that to the view model itself. So we need to go to the view models, Store Manager View Models. Was that right? Store Manager View Model. Okay, just so we know what we're passing it around. And once you get down here, so now what I do is with this editor for, well, we don't say for the model that we've just passed in because it's a view model, etc. We want to tell it what we're going to use it, and we're going to say, well, the model inferred is this. We're actually going to use the game model, but we're going to pass it in the what is it? creating a collection of the platforms equals model dot platforms. Okay, and theoretically we should be able to just run the same sort of page. It's going to have a hissy fit. What's the problem with that? Edit that page. I'm missing a bracket on edit. There. There's an existing. Okay, what do I reference here? I've probably got to update the. No, I've got to go back to the controller because the controller hasn't passed that through. So under the edit, under the store manager controller, I've got to go through here. Whereas before we were passing back the game, I need to say, well, actually, I'm gonna pass it back a view model instead. And I want to say the game itself. Oh, I've got IntelliSense for once. You wouldn't believe it. Dot games dot. Why did I delete that code before? But I also want to pass it through a list of platforms. Platforms dot to list. And I want to pass it through publishers. Publishers dot to list. And I want to pass back the view model. So what it means is that now I can pass it back a combination of multiple stuff. So not only am I just passing back a game in one game object, I'm saying pass me back that game that you've wanted before, but also attach a list of publishers and a list of platforms because I want to be able to display drop-down information for those. Oops, and away we go. And click on edit, and boom.
Your namespace, it was being suggested that your namespace is wrong on the top of the edit page.
Is it?
No, on your edit template, edit for.
Yep.
Yeah. Right top.
Yep.
That's just view model.
Oh. View model.
Viewmodels.store.
Thank you. Very observant. There we go. Now I've got my two double buttons again. So it's kind of where you're going. But you can see now we've got that template of fields that is reusable on the create page as opposed to just the edit page. And then when I go through and bind up these to say, let's put in drop-down lists. So there's HTML helpers for drop-down lists. It's called, HTML helper drop-down list. Use this model that you've just passed through. So now we've passed through the platforms. Well, we can take that platform and just say, create me a drop-down list from that. And also set me to the current ID that matches the one there. So it's a lot easier to do the binding with the relationships. Okay, sorry we didn't sort of get as far as I wanted with this. A bit of a later start there, but just so we'll have a point there. Adam, did you want to just go to the thing? I mean, I can keep going.
No. Yeah. Don't keep going. We're going to the pub.
Okay.
All right, finished?
I am finished. Thank you very much for coming. Any questions? Just feel free to email me. You can get me on my email address, justin@kingjustin.com. So it's just my name backwards.com. I'm more than happy to answer emails. Adam sends me way too many, so just
I got a task for you. Go to tv.ssw.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll be informed of all upcoming videos. In addition, if you're super keen, I'm all about inspecting and adapting. So send me an email or send me a tweet @Adam Kogan. Cheers.